Didn't think much of it when Brooklyn mentioned the dinner. We were sitting at the kitchen table, her tapping away on her phone, me thumbing through a grocery receipt trying to figure out why a single cantaloupe had cost us $8. She said it in passing, "Oh, by the way, there's this little corporate dinner Friday night. Just team stuff. No plus ones." I looked up. "Just coworkers?" She didn't glance up. "Yup. Very much not a big deal. Just internal awards and company nonsense. That's the thing about trust. It doesn't break with a bang. It loosens gradually like a picture frame on a crooked nail, slipping millimeter by millimeter before crashing to the floor." I nodded, and that was that. I didn't ask again. I didn't want to be the guy, the suspicious husband, the overthinker, the walking insecurity complex. Brooklyn always hated that type. Early in our relationship, she told me how smothered she felt with her ex because he was constantly checking in. "If I tell you I'm somewhere, believe me. If you don't trust me, we've already lost." So I believed her. I kept believing her, even as the uneasiness in my gut began to curl like smoke. That Friday, she came home from work earlier than usual. "I want to look somewhat presentable," she joked, kissing me on the cheek before heading upstairs. "There's a photographer this time. Pierre wants pictures." I watched her disappear up the stairs, her heels already in hand. Something about her energy felt elevated. Not nervous, not annoyed. Buzzing. Like anticipation was humming just under her skin. She spent over an hour getting ready. She even shut the door, something she hadn't done in years unless she was wrapping a gift or video calling one of her sisters. I heard the blow dryer, the clinking of jewelry, the rustling of tissue paper from some new outfit bag. When she finally opened the door, I swear I forgot how to speak for a second. Brooklyn looked incredible. No, she looked deliberate. Her makeup was precise but not heavy, like she wanted to look good but not like she was trying too hard. Her black pencil skirt hugged her hips just right, and her top had this low swoop in the back I'd never seen before. She wore heels. Not pumps or wedges, stilettos. The kind that click when you walk and whisper confidence. "Wow," I said, the word falling out before I could help it. She laughed, brushing a stray curl behind her ear. "Too much." "No, you look amazing," I said. Then added, "Just not what I pictured for a work thing." She paused. Just for a beat. Then smiled. "Photographer, remember? Plus, my boss is handing out this leadership spotlight thing. Apparently I'm in the running, so figured I'd show up looking like I give a damn." I nodded slowly. "You didn't mention you were getting an award." She waved her hand. "I'm probably not. They give those to the salespeople who bring in big numbers, not editors who wrangle interns and write captions for social media." Still, something felt off. Her energy, her glow, it wasn't for work. It wasn't for me either. She kissed me quickly before grabbing her clutch. "Don't wait up, okay? Could go late." And with that she left. I stood at the window after she pulled out of the driveway, watching the taillights vanish. The silence in the house closed in fast. It wasn't the peaceful kind, it was the kind that rings in your ears and makes you start questioning what you didn't hear. I tried to shake it. Opened a beer. Turned on the TV. Folded laundry, walked the dog, even organized the junk drawer, but the stillness in my chest never left. I couldn't stop replaying little moments in my head. The extra time she spent getting ready. The new perfume, floral, expensive, not the citrusy one she used to wear. How she'd said no guests with that casual smile that didn't quite meet her eyes. I knew the name of the hotel because she'd added it to our shared calendar a few days ago. Midtown Hotel, media dinner. No room number, no contact, just that. Normally, I wouldn't have even noticed. But tonight, I opened the app and stared at that entry for a long time. Then I did something I couldn't explain, not even to myself. I grabbed my jacket, keys, and phone, and I left. Didn't text her. Didn't call. I told myself I just wanted to see it. The dinner. The people. Her boss. Something to prove that this weird feeling in my chest was just paranoia. I drove slow, like my foot wasn't sure whether it wanted to keep going. Nashville looked glossy under the streetlights, like everything had been buffed and polished for some event I wasn't invited to. When I pulled up to the Midtown Hotel, valet parking was a madhouse. Black SUVs lined the curb. Women in cocktail dresses clustered around the front entrance. Men in slim suits laughed too loudly in little groups near the bar. It didn't look like a boring team dinner. It looked like a gala. I slipped inside through the side entrance and followed the sound of clapping to the ballroom. No one stopped me. No one noticed. And that's when I saw her. Brooklyn was standing on stage, smiling under the warm lights. Her name had just been called. She looked radiant. Powerful. Like a different person. A version of her I no longer recognized. You can't always pinpoint the exact moment something breaks. It's rarely loud. It's subtle, like a faucet dripping behind a closed door. You don't notice it at first, but one day the floor is warped and the ceiling beneath it is stained. That's how it was with Brooklyn. I didn't walk out of that ballroom with clarity. I walked out more confused than ever. It wasn't just that she looked stunning. It wasn't just that she hadn't mentioned she'd be on stage. It was the way she smiled out into the crowd, like she didn't have anything tethering her to home. Like she was weightless. When I got back to the car, I sat in the driver's seat for a long time. Hands on the wheel. Engine off. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just stared at the dashboard and let everything I'd been ignoring rise to the surface. Because this wasn't sudden. Looking back, the signs had been there for months, little fractures I chalked up to stress, or phases, or things people go through in long-term marriages. But they weren't phases. They were signals. She started coming home later. Not crazy late, just enough to notice. She always had a reason, a last-minute meeting, a networking mixer, traffic. You know how it is, she'd say, peeling off her coat like she hadn't already worn the same excuse last week. She signed up for Pilates on Tuesday and Thursday evenings. Then added core wellness hours on Sundays, whatever that meant. She said it helped her mental clarity. I didn't argue. I just nodded and stayed quiet. She changed her perfume. That one hit harder than I expected. She'd worn the same warm, citrusy scent since we met. I used to joke it was how I always knew when she was home. I'd open the front door and the whole place would smell like her. One day she walked in and it wasn't there anymore. It was muskier. Heavier. I asked about it and she just smiled and said it felt like trying something new. She also stopped posting pictures of us. That was subtle too. She used to tag me in every brunch photo, every anniversary post, every random look at this man I married moment. Then they slowed. Then they stopped. Eventually, she archived everything that included me. All our vacations, our wedding anniversary dinners, even our dog's birthday photo, gone. I noticed. Of course I did. But I didn't bring it up. I told myself maybe she was going through something personal. Maybe she needed space to reconnect with herself. We all change. We all go through seasons. But then came the lingerie. One evening I went to grab an extra towel from the closet and found a tiny shopping bag tucked into the back, the tissue paper still neatly folded. Inside was something bold, lacy, expensive, and red. Not something she'd ever worn for me. Not something she even hinted at. I don't know why, but my heart sank. I wasn't angry, just hollow. Like I'd stumbled into a life she was living just a few feet away, but completely separate from me. Then there was the phone call. It was a Thursday night. We were on the couch, her legs over mine, some forgettable Netflix show on in the background. Her phone lit up. The screen read, "Core balance." She jumped. I didn't even get a chance to glance again before she swiped it away and muttered something about a yoga reminder app. I nodded. Weird name for an app, I said casually. She laughed too hard. I know, right? They're always naming stuff like that. Very zen chic. The next morning, the red mark on her neck caught my eye. A faint imprint, not makeup, not a scratch. Just a little too perfectly shaped to ignore. She told me it was from her weighted yoga mat strap. I just nodded. From that point on, I started keeping quiet tabs. Not spying, not snooping. Just noticing. Memorizing. Connecting dots I hadn't even realized were part of the same picture. It wasn't about catching her in a lie, it was about confronting the slow decay that had already crept into the corners of our home. She wasn't cruel. She didn't yell or pick fights. But her absence was loud. She was in the room, but never with me. Always texting. Always halfway out the door. Always just tired. She started listening to different music. Eating cleaner. Talking about things like intention setting and emotional energy. None of it was bad, but it all felt curated. Like she was rebranding. Like our life together was a season she was ready to leave behind. One night, I picked up her phone by accident. We have the same model and they look identical from a distance. She'd left it on the charger. I needed to check the weather for the next day. When I realized it wasn't mine, I went to put it down and that's when I saw the lock screen. It was a photo of her, just her standing in front of a mountain view. The kind of photo that looks like it belongs in a dating profile. Windswept hair, golden hour glow, soft smile. She hadn't shown me that picture. I hadn't taken it. I put the phone down carefully. Like it might explode if I held it too long. That was the moment I knew. It wasn't just that she'd changed. It was that she didn't want me to know her anymore. She wasn't hiding a fling or a secret crush. She was shedding the version of herself that loved me and doing it with intention. Whatever she was building, I wasn't part of it. I didn't bring it up that night. I didn't ask. I didn't accuse. I just watched her, sitting across the table, laughing at something on her phone, feet tucked under her, wine in hand. She looked so at ease, like someone who didn't realize she was being watched from the shoreline while her boat quietly drifted away. I didn't go there to catch her. I didn't expect a confrontation or some soap opera scene. Honestly, I didn't know what I was hoping for when I parked outside the Midtown Hotel that night. Maybe just a glimpse, something to prove I was overthinking. A moment to reassure myself that all of this, tension, the late nights, the shift in her smile, it was in my head. But it wasn't in my head. I walked through the side entrance of the ballroom just as the lights dimmed and the host called for attention. The applause, the laughter, the chatter, it all quieted as the awards portion of the evening kicked off. I stayed near the back, by the wall, close enough to see but far enough that I wouldn't be seen. The room was gold and glitter. Waiters moved between round tables, champagne glasses shimmered under the chandeliers. It looked like a gala, not a corporate dinner. Everyone was dressed to impress, sleek suits, elegant dresses, designer shoes. And then there was Brooklyn. She was front and center at table 2. Laughing. Talking. Smiling in a way I hadn't seen in months. The kind of smile that used to be mine, reserved for our private jokes and slow mornings. Now it lit up a table full of strangers. Her posture was relaxed, a hand resting on the back of the chair next to hers. She didn't look like someone passing time until she got home. She looked like she was home already. Then the host, some exec in a navy suit with teeth too white to be real, tapped the mic. Next up, he said, grinning, someone who's been at the heart of our creative team for over 2 years. She came in with nothing but a portfolio and a lot of ideas, and now she's running half our strategy for national clients. He paused for dramatic effect. Brooklyn Ames, everybody? The applause erupted. My chest tightened. She rose slowly, gracefully, like this moment had been rehearsed in her head for weeks. Her skirt clung to her like it had been tailored just for this night. And her smile, God, that smile, was dazzling. For a moment, I didn't recognize her. Brooklyn climbed a few steps to the stage and took the mic from the host. She didn't look nervous. She looked like she belonged there. Like she'd been waiting for the spotlight her whole life. Wow, she said with a little laugh. Okay, first of all, I didn't expect to be up here, so thank you. Really? Another pause. Then came the part I'll never forget. I used to think life was about staying where you're safe, she said. Where things are comfortable, familiar, even when they don't fit anymore. But sometimes growth looks like leaving that behind. Even when it's painful. Even when you don't fully understand it yet. Soft laughter from the crowd. I wouldn't be here tonight if I hadn't let go of who I was. The version of myself that settled. That stayed quiet. That made choices out of obligation, not desire. A ripple of applause. Brooklyn smiled again. And if I hadn't taken that leap, if I hadn't said yes to this job, to this team, to this life, I'd still be stuck with the mistake of my past. Laughter. Laughter. Not from her. From them. They laughed. Like it was a punchline. Like it was clever. Like the mistake of her past was some character in a story they all knew. But I knew. She was talking about me. I felt the floor tilt like I'd been shoved off balance. I didn't move. Didn't blink. Just stood there, frozen in the back of the room, my ears ringing. She finished her speech, accepted her award, and stepped off the stage like she just won something more than a plaque and a photo op. She looked free. An hour passed. I didn't leave. I stood by the far wall, close to the exit. Just watching. Watching her move through the crowd like she belonged to it. Watching her laugh with people I'd never met, speak to them in a tone I hadn't heard in months, warm, engaged, present. I waited until the crowd thinned and people started collecting coats. Then I stepped just a little closer into her line of sight. She turned and saw me. Her smile faltered. Not all at once. It didn't vanish, it cracked. Her eyes widened a touch. Her hand, the one holding her wine glass, trembled just slightly. She didn't wave. Didn't say my name. She just stood there. And I stood there too. It only lasted a few seconds, but those seconds split the world in half. Before and after. The man she used to love and the man she now saw as a relic of her old life. Then I turned and left. I didn't storm out. I didn't cause a scene. I didn't say a word to anyone. I just walked into the cold Nashville night, got in my car, and drove home in silence. I think I stopped breathing somewhere on the interstate. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a little. I laid there in the dark, eyes fixed on the ceiling, like if I stared hard enough, it would give me some kind of answer. The bedroom was so still I could hear the faint ticking of the thermostat. Every now and then a car passed outside, headlights sweeping shadows across the walls. But inside me? Silence. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that comes after a bomb. Brooklyn hadn't come home yet. Or maybe she had. I never heard the door. I didn't want to know. What haunted me wasn't just the speech, it was the ease with which she said it. Like she'd been thinking it for months. Like I was a pair of old shoes she kept around out of guilt, and now she'd finally worked up the nerve to toss me in the bin. The mistake of my past. I repeated it out loud once, just to hear how it sounded in my own voice. It didn't even feel real. It sounded like something from a bad TV show, like I was the guy in the background while the main character found herself. Around 4 a.m. I got up and made coffee. Not because I needed it, but because I needed to do something. Something human. Something that didn't involve reliving every moment of that dinner. I sat in the kitchen staring out the window while the pot dripped behind me. I don't even remember pouring it. My hands were shaking so badly I had to hold the mug with both. Her car was in the driveway. So she had come home. But she hadn't come into our room. Guest bedroom maybe. Or maybe she sat in the living room all night like I had. Or maybe, and this thought chilled me the most, maybe she slept like it was any other night. Like nothing had changed. Later that morning I needed air. I wasn't thinking clearly. I grabbed her tablet from the couch to look up a trail nearby, something mindless to get me out of the house. But when I opened it, the screen lit up with a travel confirmation. Spa resort. Tennessee mountains. It was for 2 people. Couples massages. Private jacuzzi suite. A bottle of wine waiting in the room upon arrival. A custom aromatherapy blend designed for *mate reconnection. I felt the air get *get out of the room. The dates were next weekend. She hadn't said a word. I scrolled down and saw her name listed with another guest, but the second name had been left blank. Maybe she hadn't added it yet. Or maybe she was just careful not to leave a trail. When I confronted her the week before about visiting her grandmother, the excuse she gave me for disappearing that weekend, she'd been calm. Said she hadn't seen her in a while. That she missed her. I opened my phone. Called her brother. He answered on the second ring, groggy. I told him I was just checking in, making sure the family was okay, since Brooklyn was heading down to Mississippi next weekend. There was a pause. Then he said, confused, "What?" "Ty, Grandma passed, like 2 years ago." The room didn't spin. Nothing dramatic happened. It was just quiet. I hung up before he could ask more. I sat there at the dining table looking at the black screen of her tablet, the soft whir of the fridge filling the air. It hit me how much noise I'd been trying to make just to drown out the obvious. The miscues. The inconsistencies. The way she always seemed just slightly out of reach. She didn't trip into this. She'd planned it. The red dress, the speech, the spa, it was all part of some new version of herself she'd been crafting for months. A version that didn't include me. I wasn't the mistake she made. I was the mistake she was still fixing. I didn't cry. I didn't scream or punch a wall. I just sat there, breathing in the stale air of a house that no longer felt like home, and realized I wasn't her husband anymore. I was her exit strategy. I didn't sleep that night either. What was the point? By morning I was done playing catch-up. No more waiting for the next lie to land. No more pretending I didn't already know. I made coffee same way I always did. Poured 1 mug. Just 1. Then I went to the front door and changed the code on our smart lock. Something I should have done weeks ago. When I was done, I walked through every room and started packing her things. Not with rage. Not even with sadness. Just focus. I didn't toss anything. I folded. I zipped. I even wrapped her jewelry in tissue like it was fragile because it was. Every little object reminded me of a version of her that no longer existed. By noon, 3 suitcases sat in the front hall, side by side like passengers waiting for their flight. The silence was thick, the kind that settles over a place after it's been emptied of intention. This wasn't our home anymore. It was just square footage. She came in around 2 p.m. I heard the lock click and then stop, the new code not recognizing her. I watched from the hallway as she tried again. Then her fist hit the door just once. I opened it. Her eyes flicked to the suitcases before they landed on me. "Tyler, what is this?" Her tone was sharp, defensive. She already knew. "You lied," I said. "You lied about the dinner, about the spa, about your grandmother." She blinked once, slow. Then her face twisted into something between panic and offense. "You went through my stuff?" "I didn't have to," I said. "You left the pieces in plain sight." I just finally stopped looking away. Her eyes darted. Her mind was scrambling. "Tyler, you're making this into something it's not." "Then tell me what it is," I said calmly. "Explain the 2-person spa reservation, the speech about mistakes, the new perfume." The yoga app that only calls at night. Tell me what any of it is if it's not exactly what it looks like. She didn't answer. Instead, she stepped inside like it was still her house. Like she had a right to do so. But it wasn't hers anymore. Not really. She started to pace. You're acting like I'm some villain. Like I planned this. You've been distant too, Tyler. You act like I just woke up one day and decided to blow everything up. You did. I cut in steady. You woke up. You changed your hair, your clothes, your schedule, your scent. You deleted us one post at a time. And when it wasn't enough, you planned a trip to disappear with someone else while pretending you were grieving a woman who's already been gone for years. That one hit. Her jaw locked. She stared at me with fire in her eyes. You're unbelievable, she said. I needed space. I needed clarity. You want to make everything about control and tracking and... I raised my hand, not to stop her, but to stop me from responding in anger. I'm not arguing, I said. This isn't a debate. You made choices. I just see them now. She scoffed and turned toward the suitcases. You're kicking me out? No, I said. You already left. I'm just making it official. She spun around. You don't get to be the victim here. I'm not trying to be. I'm just done living in a house where one of us is lying every time they speak. She stared at me for a long time, searching for something in my face. Guilt, weakness, a crack she could slip through. But I gave her nothing. I walked past her, calm, slow, steady, into the kitchen. I poured myself a glass of water. Didn't offer her one. Behind me, her voice broke slightly. Tyler, we can fix this. I didn't turn around. You don't fix something by pretending it isn't broken, I said. You fix it by telling the truth. And you haven't told it in a long time. I heard her exhale, a shaky breath. But I stayed where I was, eyes on the window, watching a leaf float down to the lawn like it didn't have a care in the world. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just walked back to the living room and sat down on the couch like maybe if she stayed still enough, I'd forget what I knew. But I didn't forget. And I didn't sit with her. The air between us wasn't tension anymore. It was distance.